Okay, great. So to kick things off, I want to make sure that everyone can see my slides. Let me do this. Can everyone see my slides? Okay. Thumbs up if you can see. Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to start off today's session with a poll question. Let's start off with that and get some engagement there. And then, yeah, everyone got it? Okay, awesome. So definitely type in chat. I have a chat on the side. I can see what you guys are typing. And those definitely use your reaction button. And I will not be sharing after, but the whole presentation will be recorded. So you'll have that on the York, the YSpace YouTube, and I normally do a 5-minute Reader's Digest version as well on the Change Connect YouTube channel. So I'll try to do one for this topic as well, and then at the end we'll ask you to see who wants to be on our mailing list, and when you do that, I will add you on LinkedIn, add you on our mailing list so that you get an email at the end of the Reader's Digest version as well. Cool? Okay, so I'm going to start today's conversation with a poll question. So I want to quickly get an understanding of what's going on here. Tell me a little bit about you. Are you, side hustling? Are you in business less than 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 5+ years? Where do you stand? Okay. Everyone knows how to use poll, looks like. Awesome. Good. So I want to share the poll results with you guys. So, I mean, it looks like we have a really good cross section of, everyone can see the poll. So it looks like we have a real good cross section of what's going on here. We have some side hustlers. We have some 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 years plus. So it'll be an awesome conversation today. Let's kick things off with this. How many of you guys have seen this particular graphic flowing in LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever? Honestly, I can tell you I've been in the transformation business for the last 15 years or so, and I haven't seen so much change in the business scenario in business in the last. I've seen more changes in the last 6 weeks than I have pretty much in the last 6 months, if not even the last 6 years. So as much as I know a few of us are griping and complaining about COVID-19, getting in the way of everything, and it really is a good way for us to really look at our business model. How can we change? And I love a saying from Jack Ma. Jack Ma always says, where the complaints are is where the opportunities lies. So you want to make sure that, and we're complaining a lot right now, I know that. So there's definitely some opportunity to be had. And, when we first started doing, this is my second time doing Founders Fundamental with the group. And last year was all about sales planning. And as we were planning to do this session, we get started probably in around October time, last October, as to what is the curriculum for this year. And of course, this year, we went back to sales fundamental again, and sales planning. But with COVID, I've been asked to do a little bit more COVID related questions. So I'm going to flip to the next slide and see what you guys think. I want to know, what is happening right now for you guys? Or what do you guys think? Number one, do you think this is a quick recovery? We'll end the crisis in Q1, customer will have full confidence by Q2, everything looks good? Or are we in more scenario 2, where there's a global slowdown, there's growth, the virus will stop in the beginning of Q2, there's some economic impact, customer will return at a slower pace, probably around Q3, or are we really looking at a scenario C where we're dealing with a global pandemic and we're probably in a space where there might be possibly a recession coming? I'm going to launch a poll and see what you guys think. So I do these sessions. I do sales best practice session every Thursday at 10:30 with our followers, and um, I ran exactly the same poll 2 weeks ago with the group, and it's a little different. And I can end the poll, and I'll share with you what the others have said too. I'll share the results here. So you see that, 9% of you think there's a quick recovery, 34% of you think that there's a global slowdown, and 57% of you think that there's a recession coming. And I can tell you, 2 weeks ago, as I talked to other business owner and other organizational leaders, um, the number between the global slowdown and the global pandemic recession was flipped. I have more people, over 50%, definitely 50 to 60% in the global slowdown piece, and the recession had about maybe 30%. So definitely the flip between number 2 and number 3 there. So I mean, no one knows what the future holds, right? But it is it's interesting to see how everyone's take is quite different. And I want to also share that it's also depends on which industry you're in, right? Everyone's perspective is slightly different because we're all in slightly different industries. Awesome. So let's get into the meat of some of the pandemic stuff. And how many of you guys, just in the chat box, so I know, actually no, just use your reaction. How many of you guys are in, would you consider yourself in sales? Sales, you're selling every day, you are, or you're more operations person for your business? 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So majority of you are in a more an operations role. Okay, that's good. So I'm gonna try to get through the next sets of slides faster so you can understand where I'm coming from, because I'm in sales full time. So and we teach people how to sell. We do sales strategy, we do sales, anything that's sales related we do. So in the beginning, like I would say 3-4 weeks ago, there was a panic that sort of overcuts the whole scenario, and everyone is concerned about sales. People weren't taking calls, people were concerned, want to deal with layoffs more, like give pink slips out, give ROE out more than they want to talk to us about sales. And I think that's okay for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then after that was, well, what is the new norm? What does sales look like? People are not taking my call. What does that, people, I'm not closing. Cash flow is maxed out. People are thinking more, people want to conserve cash more than ever before. So, there was a panic going through. So I kind of want to remind my sales guys here. Don't forget, sales by definition is really helping your client succeed, and seeing it through. And if they succeed, we succeed. You want to think about that all the time. So, and I think some of that don't stop, because a lot of my sales guys, as we coach them or we talk to them, they stop calling because they weren't getting through to one of their customer or two of their customer, and they sort of took it as no one wants to talk to them. But if you think about sales as someone that helps, someone that consults, someone that try to solve problems, then that role will always exist. Your clients, your prospects, your leads will always need someone. I would argue that there's more problem than ever before that we have to resolve. So I don't want you guys to stop selling. That tells me that you guys are product selling rather than solution selling if you guys stop calling and making those calls. So the idea of understanding what your buyers want, establishing relationship with your buyer, trying to help your prospect. If you think about the sales pipeline, let's go to the next slide. If you don't think about the sales pipeline, the sales funnel, this one is a fairly generic one. We broke it down into 5 stages of what that looked like. When you're in sales, your job all day, every day is advancing your leads, when marketing pass them to you, advancing that from marketing to close. That's your job all day, every day. And I don't care if you went from stage 1 to stage 4, stage 2 to stage 4, stage 1 to stage 3. they're all advancement in my eye. If sometimes you keep doing the best practice, and sometimes you're not yielding the result, and you start giving up, and you give up way too soon. It's something that I see quite often, where they're like, oh, you know what, I'll try this strategy I'll try, this is the right strategy, and you take it out to the marketplace, and the strategy, let's say, is whatever it is, didn't work for the first 3 weeks, and you deem that strategy must be wrong, that, and you want to be sure that you don't give up too early, because you would have done your market research long before, and you don't want to give up. Like, if you're so certain that it's the right move, if you don't yield result in 3 weeks and you give up, I think that's a bit too early. Same as what I'm talking about here in terms of the stages. I think a lot of times, I don't disagree with you. I'm in sales all day, every day. So I know buying, unless you're an essential service, it's harder for people to pull the trigger, because there's a lot of talk in the marketplace about conserving cash, making payroll. Those are fundamental to any business. But my job as a salesperson is still to get them close to where the delayed buy would be. So if I'm expecting to close them in April, let's have the conversation still, and maybe cash flow is better in August. I still want my lead to be closer to right before. Yeah, you still want to get them to just before close. When they're ready to buy, you want them to buy. You're still advancing the people through the pipeline. I agree with you, MC. They're not willing to pay, right? The need is there, but people are not willing to pay. But people are really looking at cash spend very differently. Yes, I can do that. So the whole idea of a sales pipeline, and I know for some of you, especially the side hustlers, this might be a different way of looking at sales. I believe sales is all about numbers and making sure that it is okay. So if you look at the 5 stages, right? We expect a few things. We expect that there will be drop off at every stage, no doubt, and you must, and that's why. Okay, so, and you have to understand, and that's what today's about a little bit at the end, as we talk about the idea of sales planning. You have to plan for drop-off rates. You have to plan for people that you pitch to may not think you're the best solution for them. So, let's calculate for that. But as we work through the numbers, it has to make sense for you. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of close is, you know what, during this time, I know people don't have the cash to buy us now. So I'm going to get as many to stage 4 as possible. So for me, it's more like a delay sales, not I'm not doing business with you at all. Imagine if you decide to take a break now and everyone is still, if your leads are stuck in stage 1 or stage 2, when they're ready to buy in August, your competitors going to scoop them up because your competitors already got them to stage 4. So that's the position you need to put yourself in. Make sense so far? Great. So next, I want to talk a little bit about value you bring to the table. Okay? I want you to have, if you think about talking to your customers, right? We did a word, a word bubble with some of our customer about their customer, and what are the words that come to their mind to describe their customer in the current state. A lot of the words that came out were worried, concerned, scared, don't know what's going on in the future. A lot of those words that wouldn't have come up 6 weeks ago. So I want you to look at the value you bring to the table of what you believe you bring to the table, and really look at, is it still relevant now? Because if you're taking to market what you took to market 6 weeks ago, the chances are something have changed. Your buyer have certainly changed. Their behavior have certainly changed. So why wouldn't your product and your value that you bring to the table change? that make sense? So this is a good way for us, and I don't know how many of you guys have read the Airbnb layoff notice from the CEO, and if you haven't, search for it, or I can send it to you guys later too. I love the way that particular email was formulated. He talked about why there was a 25% workforce decrease, how he came about doing it, how systematically he worked through the workforce, and he explained it, and it's all around value. They look at the business model, they look at what they brought to the table, what are core value that customers still believe in, and what are not considered added, services that add value to the supply chain. And 25% of the people were laid off in Airbnb. And I want, through this model, really look at the customer-centric value that you bring to the table, and see if that's changed. Thank you so much for the link. That is awesome. Look at you guys. So, and this is what they work through, is what we call the Porter's value chain system. So they look at if margin, everything, when we talk about business, everything has to do with the margin itself. So if margin is what the customer is willing to pay for our service minus the cost that we as business incur to bring the value to the table, if that is margin, then we have to look at all the stuff that we bring to the table that may or may not be value add, map it to where the primary activity lies and the supportive activity lies, and then maximize the profit by minimizing the cost it takes for us to bring the value to the table. So here, these are just a department. So if these are the primary department, and it could be different for different organizations. Inbound logistics operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales and service, right? If that's a primary activity for your, yes. If that's a primary activity associated, you want to map back this. What did you, I'm answering a particular question in the chat if someone was wondering why I'm flipping back and forth between the slides. You want to make sure you understand what the value is that you're bringing to the customer, and then map it to how much it costs us to bring the value to the customer. This is how I tend to use value over the value chain equation. And then you look at how you can still provide the value in the most cost-effective way possible. Because as you bring as you deliver the value in the most cost-effective way, then your margin will increase accordingly. Answer your question? Okay, so the next slide I want you to look at very carefully, because it's another way of looking at value that we normally don't look at, okay? So, hands up if you tell me how many of you guys are in a B2B type of business. B2B meaning, you service a business, your product service a business, not to an end customer. Okay, a few of you. Okay, I can see that. Okay, so the business on the left are customers of ours, or friends of ours, and the middle, they all service another business. Okay, so I want, and then be a B2C business. Good. So I want you, if let's say you were Naturally North. Naturally North is a whole food distributor for organic and wild caught stuff distributor, and they service Winco, which is a supermarket in Markham. So when you look at that, and when we talk about value in today's world, I want, if you are Naturally North, I want you to not only think about the operations of Winco and what you bring to Winco. I want you to put yourself in Winco's shoe and see what Winco can use your product to bring to the end customer. You really have to figure out their business model in order for you to be adding value. Does that make sense? You want to be ahead of the curve. So if your end vision, for example, obviously I live in Markham, I'm bringing all these Markham examples, but if you are end vision, Village Grocer is their client, and you want to get in front of it with Village Grocer. You want to go anticipate what is it a grocery store will encounter, what problem is there. There's some backsplash on the internet right now with Village Grocers employees not wearing masks, for example. So as their marketer, how are you going to preempt some of these problems? But you want to catch it before. You want to make sure that you anticipate the needs of their customer to, I guess, warn your client what are potential risks so that they don't get into a pitfall during this time, if it makes any sense, instead of just looking at the value for your customer. Okay, you really need to look at it a little deeper than what we used to. So far, so good? Give me a thumbs up if you understand what I was trying to say there. My last presentation of the day, guys. Okay, so next slide. Enough thumbs up for me to keep going. So next slide is about the strategy. I want you guys to take a moment and really understand what I'm trying to say here, because there's quite a unique time in history that we can look at the ends off and think about whether there's a different position change. So a lot of times when we talk to our clients about growing their business, right, there's really 4 ways that we believe you can grow your business. Number 1, existing product, existing market. So you are trying to win market share in the playground that you know and you're familiar with, and you likely have a brand name. So let's say if you already have 15% of the market share, you want to now set it, in order for you to grow, you want to change that into a 25% market share. And how do you strategize to get 25% market share? Okay. In this particular situation, if this was in your world, like, and especially because of COVID, I want you guys to think a little deeper, because I have a lot of people coming to us and say, oh my God, I have stopped prospecting because there's just no need for my service. People won't do this, and there's no place for me to. There's no one for me to prospect to, Agnes. I'm just going to wait it out. I hate that. Like, there's no waiting it out, right? In 3 weeks time, in 3 months time, it's not like it's going to go back to where it was back in February. It's going to be a new norm that we have to adapt and work with. So there's no going back. So don't tell me you're going to go back to the way it was. Let's try to work together to find what the new norm is. But it is true. Like, I'll give you a classic example here. We have a marketing client, digital marketing agency client, and they are generalists, and we it's never a good thing for you to be a generalist. So one of the things that they worked on was rebranding and rebrand themselves in the hospitality space. Okay, if you think about rebranding yourself in the hospitality space at this time, there couldn't have been a worse scenario for them. In the I think the second week, 40% of the client pulled the ad budget. By the 6th week, 60% of the people have pulled back their ad budget. So I mean, if you think about these spas and nightclubs, like who the heck, they are closing. They're thinking about layoffs. It's hard. So one of the things that we used the ANSLOT for was, you know what, we need to keep going. There's no space for us, no opportunity for us in the hospitality space, but we know how to market. we know exactly what we have to do to put a store online in overnight. So what can we do to serve our, the greater client still? So we brainstorm and we found some space over at existing product new market. So one of the things that we ended up doing or suggesting for the client, and I'm saying it here only because we didn't end up using this particular example, so now it's a free for all, but we looked at what are some seasonal business that would miss the boat if they don't have a marketer or marketing some sort of an online presence at the moment. So one of the sector that we thought we wanted to chase after was going to be the nursery, the gardening nursery business, because majority of the sales is done in the month of May, now until May 2 for a weekend. And if they miss that window, if we were still in lockdown, they're done for the year. So, one of the things that we came up with was let's cold call and put every nursery we know online so that we give them the ability to, we even talked about linking them up with certain logistics companies so they can move their product from their I guess garden space to the client's home, right? Now there's curbside pickup, of course, as well. So talk to the nurseries and see, they wouldn't want to miss their selling season. We can put them online in a matter of 2 days. Why not get that started? So that's open, leveraging what they know, but in a market that they generally don't have clients in. So that's existing product, new market. Okay, another way of thinking about it would be existing market but new product. So people that already love and trust you, what kind of products can you bring to them that will help them solve their problem now? So that requires a lot of talking and communicating and really being empathetic to your customer base now. Survey them, see how you can help and what you can bring to the table in order for you to achieve that. So for example, same marketing client, they did a lot. They were able to do some offline marketing for them as well. There was a lot more business marketing strategy for later half of the year, so we can ensure that the marketing spend is delayed spend in areas that matters, and bringing new products and development. So one of the things too that that we talked about doing for that particular marketing clients, that we have a lot of connection in the video production space. And if virtual selling is a thing, then perhaps it's a matter of, and remote selling is a thing that we have to deal with, then linking up with a video production firm and having virtual tours of manufacturing plants. So if visiting manufacturing plant is a must for people to buy, then now they can't visit you. How can you still simulate the same remote selling environment? You still simulate the same selling environment in a remote setting. Would be an example of existing market, but new product that you bring to the table. Last but not least is the idea of diversification. And I think that one's front and center for most of you. I'm sure every one of us knows somebody that is now selling PPE that never remotely used to be in the PPE space at all. Okay, so that would be diversification. So my question, obviously, my last poll question of the day is this one. Where do you think your opportunity lies in, given what you do? Is it number one, market penetration, which is existing market, existing business? 2, market development. 3, product development, or C, diversification? Pretty even across the board, guys. So I want to hear from a few of you. I think we're going to unmute. If you can put up your hand, maybe you guys, this is a good place for us to be sharing. Anyone want to share? And you guys are a quiet group today. Share your strategy. So you guys voted and tell me where's your best bang for your buck. So maybe some of you guys can share that, how you come up with market penetration or how you came up with market development.
Edward here speaking.
Hi, Edward.
Hello. I picked market penetration, well, because my business, I'm a lead generation / business to business appointment setting service. So when things have slowed down, you know, not many people are taking phone calls or meetings and stuff like that. So the reason why I picked market penetration is to let people know that I'm here and available, and if they need me, give me a call. So that's why I said market penetration. So I need to have tons of businesses out there know what I do, and when they're ready to, I guess, go back into the sales part of things, they would contact me to set up sales appointments for their reps or for their business.
Okay, that's a great example.
Thank you.
Anyone? Yeah, no, that's a great example. Anyone else? And then I'll do a little bit sharing of my own as well. Dex,
Hey, Dex
I see you
here.
unmuting yourself.
Yeah.
Hey,
so I'll share a little bit. So we're in a SaaS market research software development company, so B2B. You know, we don't know what the future looks like. So I think it's really, you know, important. So thanks, Agnes, for covering a couple of things. Really, I think helping the sales, you know, prospecting and sales, you know, value for the future and now is really, you know, sizing your target market so that your sales team or individual can go after a smaller, you know, solid goal, like, you know, hot leads instead of like, you know, very cold and warm leads. Go after those guys and continue to nurture, you know, your customer base and stuff like that. So really good information. And really, as your every day is really not selling your, you know, just really, you know, having a case study of selling, you know, your solution. Ultimately, it's just, you know, solving problems and stuff like that. So, you know, for us, you know, we don't know what the market looks like. So we have, since, you know, the second week of COVID, really, you know, start to plan for a diversifying portfolio, you know, coming up with, you know, other things that's been, you know, putting on the back burner on, you know, what we have thought before. Really now's the time to put into place where, you know, come up with different solution. Doesn't matter what the outcome is next time, you're prepared for, you know, what, you know, your customer needs are, right? So because some of the things we already know, some things are unknown. So instead of having, you know, stay with, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket, you know, go after the diversifying portfolio. And I think with even now for us, you know, in the last couple of weeks, coming out with new solution, really getting a lot more eyeballs and conversation and saying, you know, thinking, you know, outside the box. So that's where we are.
And that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Sheriff, do you have something to say?
Yes, our company, we are working in importing and exporting industrial products and including steel products. So at this time, many of the steel mills, they have low capacity production and they are looking for new buyers. So I think it's a good penetration opportunity to go to those big steel mills who used to work with very big companies. Now they are looking for anyone to buy from them any ton. So it's a good opportunity to start dealing with new potential suppliers and sell their products. I mean, that's my point.
Yeah, no, I think so. As much as you know, there's definitely people complaining about the situation, I think I see a lot of opportunity as well. So I can share a little bit on Change Connect side, personal sharing a little bit. So traditionally we have, I mean, we do things with YSpace, Markham Small Business Center. We have our own physical events, you know, but we never really do webinars because we never really got the traction and never really get the captive audience to come show up. And whenever we do a webinar, we have maybe 10, 15 show up and it's just not worth it. So we done some, and then it wasn't a good strategy for us. And because of COVID, we have to stop our physical events. So we have to find a way to augment that interaction. So we started doing webinars again, and it's night and day. Like, you know, people want information that's going to help them solve problem. So now we have, you know, our Thursday webinars. We have 40 to 70 people show up each time. So it's, you know, we're pushing out relevant information that people care to listen to, and you know, you're getting a lot better engagement. And I'm with you guys there. I think cold calling is who was cold calling before? It was Ed. So it's a little tough. I don't get me wrong, but people that sort of already kind of know you, I think the conversation is certainly has been a good one. I have people that I haven't spoken to for three years or so that actually proactively seen some of our webinars information. They're in trouble, so they're calling out to us and say, hey, can we have a conversation again? And I have to admit, it's pretty cool that these people that, you know, fall off your pipeline call you back because they know you have something to offer. You happen to be at the right place at the right time, and then now the conversation is at their house. Like you know, you see the person, you know, background, you see where they work. It's another level of relationship building that we never had before. You know, and they're definitely, if you get them talking, they're sharing a lot more as well, versus before. Everyone's busy, right? So they take especially if you're going on a sales call, they slot you in for an hour, they slot you for 45, you don't have more than that. You know, you're just talking business. Now there's a lot better conversation to be had. So when we talk about, you know, earlier in the slide where we talk about the delay sales, I think the building relationship part right now is a really good opportunity to do so. And if you think about building relationship, and at some point, if there's a match, of course, if there's a match, the business is just a delay sales. So this is a perfect time because people want and seek the human interaction, and people now have real problems that they're trying to resolve. And there is now, because of COVID, more of an urgency to resolve some of the issue. It's actually quite an interesting time for salespeople that to push through some of the sales that they never could have been able to do before. So I'm really looking at it as an opportunity, guys. So far, so good. Anyone else before I jump onto the next section, which is the big topic today, which is sales planning? Okay, let's jump right in. So the actual planning part, and you know, how many of you guys, raise of hand, have actually a written sales plan? Okay, one of you. Okay, so I'm gonna actually break down a sales plan into it. I did see today's registration, so I know you guys are either side hustlers or 1 or 2 year in business. So I wasn't expecting that you guys would have a sales plan, so don't worry about it. But because of that, I want to make sure you know what the key component of a sales plan is, and perhaps by the end of the session, at least I'm going to get you to have 1 or 2 of those sections done. For me, first and foremost, the number 1 section you have to have is your target customer. Nothing pisses me off more when I talk to a new prospect or leads. I shouldn't say piss off, because those are the best prospect possible, is when they have a product, and when I ask them who are they chasing after, who are the target audience, and they would tell me everybody can use my product. Sure, they can, but if your marketing dollar and your sales energy and effort and resource is spread to quote unquote everybody, you're not going to be very fruitful. Your closing ratio is not good if your target audience is everybody. So you really have to look at your product. You have to, we have a session on target customer overlapping, you know, rep avatar overlapping customer avatar, but that's for another day. So, you know, you have to figure out who is your target audience, who you're trying to serve, who can you bring this product to that will yield the best return for you as a salesperson, especially if you are a small business with minimal sales resources. Okay, who are you aiming to serve? Section number 2 should be a revenue target. Okay, how much is it that you want to bring in this period? And if you don't have a revenue target right now, I'm going to urge that you write one down before the end of our session today. I don't care if it's a pie in the sky, but at least it's a pie in the sky that we're dealing with. At least it's a physical number you're dealing with. The last thing you want to do is for the number to run you, because then something can distract you, especially if you are a solopreneur or if you have a very small team. It's easier if you don't have, no one love. I teach sales for a living, for God's sake. No one love picking up the phone, maybe aside from Ed. No one love picking up the phone and cold call 1,000 people a week. That isn't especially if you were an owner operator. So you really have to have a target to drive the amount of activity you need in order for you to hit your target. Otherwise, it's hard to carve out those 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour to do sales related activity. Make sense so far? Number 3 is your actual strategy and tactic. Once you have your revenue target, what is your strategy for going to market? How are you going to go about bringing your offering to these people? In terms of the high level strategy, and then breaking down into its actionable component in the target plan, tactic plan. After that is your pricing and promotion plan. So we're coaching launch your client right now, and one of the things we talk about is, well, they asked us, well, what is our pricing strategy? And the first piece of homework we sent her home with was, hey, tell me what your customer, where is your customer and competitive analysis? If you don't even have your competitor analysis done, you're not, you have to have it. It's an essential part of you running your business. You have to know what your competitors are doing. How are they pricing? I'm not saying you have to copy their price point, because everyone's value proposition is different. But you got to understand, put yourself in your customer's shoe. When someone's being pitched to, I'm given 3 options, right? I'm making trade-offs. I am understanding what substitute for each of these functions. I'm not telling you to be cheaper. I'm not telling you to follow the same model. I'm telling you, you gotta put yourself in the shoe of your customer and understand what value each of your competitors bring to the table, and then you understand what you bring to the table and how you're gonna price accordingly. And of course, promotion as well. Promotion here, I mean, discount promotion, that's one thing. And if there's no discount, then how are you promoting yourself? And this is an interesting slide to tie something back to what we talked about earlier. I'm going to bring you back to this particular slide. Okay, so when we talk about customer-centric value have everything to do with pricing, and I'll give you a classic example here. Okay, we were talking about this in the other webinar, and I see most of today's attendees are male, but I'm pretty sure most of you know, whether it's expensive cars or like a Bugatti or expensive bag like a Chanel. Okay, they never go on sale. They don't go on sale because people buy them or a good portion of their customer buy them for social value, right? Having a Bugatti or having a Chanel bag is a status symbol. So now let's bring it back to what we were just talking about here in terms of pricing and promotion. If a Bugatti or if a Chanel bag is discounted, I just took the value away for what my customer have placed my value to be, if it makes any sense. So you have to look at, so all I'm saying is everything ties together in your sales plan. I'm not discounting for the sake of discounting. There is a lot of discounting right now in the marketplace. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, one way or another, because some of it, I mean, it is what it is. But you got to really look at strategically, because there will come a day, you know, I don't think it's soon, but there will come a day where the business will thrive again. And how can you bring it back to pre-COVID level in pricing if you're deeply discounted? Because you will have no leg to stand on in terms of how much it costs for you to go to market in the first place. If the client knows kind of where you can discount your numbers to. So, you know, there's a lot of talk right now in the marketplace around discounting because of that. And last but not least, in your sales plan, this very, you know, simplified sales plan is the idea of a team structure. Who does what? And, you know, for some of you, if you're side hustling or if you're a solopreneur, you know, you do everything. But I still want you to understand and sort of divide your duties into role-based responsibilities. Because as a solopreneur, as a side hustle, you got to understand how to, as the organization grow, you have to carve off pieces that you're not so good at or less efficient for you to do for someone else to do. And that's when roles and responsibilities start to become very important. Because if you hire somebody because they're your friend and they still do what you do, you overlap in a very, it'll be very inefficient. So you want to take a look at the roles and responsibility and really ensure that you have a clear definition of what that is, so that you have a plan to grow your business. So far, so good. Next slide. So I'm going to give you some sample goals and action. So, okay, I will take that question in just one quick second, okay? So number one, in terms of goals and action, objective. And for now, I mean, I don't want to make this goal and action thing a huge deal. I want you to have some goal and some action. I mean, it gets a little more sophisticated than that, but I'll give you a couple of examples. Number one, your objective could be to increase referral rate by 30% this quarter, right? You'll run 3 days referral technique workshops. You will hold sales contests for referral sales, or you'll increase commission on referral sales by 5%. You have an objective, you have an action plan. Another scenario could be, you know, you want to acquire 20 enterprise logos, right? You're a new startup, you want, you know, I don't care if it's 5 or 10 of those flagship customers that you can brag about, right? So your first step would be to identify 100 potential prospects and put a tiger team to manage that, you know, a very targeted team. Number two would be to hold 2 executive level events for those enterprise clients. And, you know, an action item number 3 could be give a bonus to the first team to win 3 logos, right? So the point is, you've got to have some sort of an objective you're trying to chase after, and then you have a very tangible action item that would help you to achieve your objectives. So we have a question that came through the chat. It says, how best to identify your target customer for new businesses? Remember my Jack Ma quote from before. You want to look at, you know, you don't want to identify who is screaming and complaining the loudest in your possible target customer group, right? So if you haven't completed a customer avatar worksheet yet, do that. It's important for you to identify down to the, I'm a little distracted, someone's delivering dinner to my house, but you want to identify the target customer down to what is it they're interested in, where do they hang out, how old they are, what is their title, how many kids they have, because your marketing plan would be very different, and your platform for you to reach these people would be very different. It's very important for you to not only have an idea of what you're trying to say, but also a very tangible plan based on who you identify as your customer and how you're going to outreach to those people. Yeah, Dex is right. If you can use a business model canvas, that will also work as well. Okay, next. So some of you guys are new to sales, so I want to give you guys a scenario as well as to how you can also look at coming, working backwards to get to your sales plan and sales activity goals. So if your rep needs to close $4,000 worth of business this month, and you want to convert that into what we call an activity goal. So first, you want to use your salesperson's historical performance throughout the sales funnel to figure out how many email calls or meetings that they need to do so. So let's say they have to close an average of 4 deals to hit their $4,000 budget. 50% of their demo converts to a deal, and that would mean that instead of 4 leads or the 4 deals, they actually need to see 8 prospects. And if 30% of their call leads to a demo, then in order for this rep to close 4 pieces of business at the end of the month, they actually have to have 27 people at the top of their pipeline. Make sense? So now this is why the goal is important, because you need to understand a few numbers in your sales pipeline for it to work. You need to understand that you need to close $4,000. You need to know that you need to close 4 deals, because that would mean you need to know that there's an average deal size of $1,000 each. You need to historically know that there is a 50% closing ratio from demo to deal. And you need to know that there's a 30% advancement ratio from leads to a demo. These are all very important numbers that you need to know in your business. So I'm going to ask you, raise up hand with your reactions. How many of you guys actually know those numbers inside out for your business? 1. And that would make sense because you do this for a living. So let me work for the rest of you. I'm going to use a worksheet, okay? If you guys have computer in front of you, a piece of paper in front of you, let's do this worksheet together because it's very important. And while I'm here, I can support you through chat, or if you can unmute, we can work through your problems together. So a few things for you to, a few numbers for you to understand. Number 1, your overall sales goal. I'm going to give you guys a minute for you to write down what is it that you want to do in the next 12 months. If I bump into you on the street, May 14, 2021, how much is it that you want to have achieved in 12 months? Give you a minute to write that number down. Give me a thumbs, because I know only about 6 of you had that number in your head before. So give me a thumbs up if you have a number written down right now. Awesome. Guys, even if it feels foreign, or even if it feels like, I have nothing to substantiate that, I'm just putting a number down. Just put a number down. Okay, that's the whole point of this exercise, is to put something that's in your head and sort of make it tangible through this exercise. Okay, so let's look at another number. So, you know, I just had an earlier conversation about verticals and your target market. I'm not saying you need to only have one target market. You can have a few target market. It just cannot be everybody. Okay, so, you know, if you can identify, you know, one market you want to chase after, two market you want to chase after, three market, put those vertical down. We call that vertical. So for example, for us, for Change Connect, one vertical of ours is construction firm. We chase after construction clients. We also chase after media clients. Those are two of our bigger verticals. We've started a new vertical last year where we're chasing after SMEs, smaller companies, you know, solopreneurs. We've actually, if you go back to Ansel, we designed a new offering so that allows us to be better able to support the solopreneurs, the smaller team, less than 5, which we never had an offering for. So who are those for you? The next thing I'm going to get you guys to do is beside each vertical, right here in the middle, I want you to put and allocate a percentage of sale toward that vertical. So for this particular example, we wanted to make $4 million. We've allocated 50% of our target for vertical 1, 20% of target for vertical 2, 20% of target for vertical 3, and 10% of the target to vertical 4. Which means we have to sell $2 million into vertical 1, 800,000 into vertical 2, 800,000 into vertical 3, 400,000 into vertical 4. And guys, this is not meant to be an easy exercise. When I saw today's registration list, I know. Yeah, so vertical means your target market. So if it's sure, it can be a niche market, but it could be just a vertical. Like I said, for Change Connect, we have we sell into construction. That's a vertical for us. We sell into media firms. That's a vertical for us. We sell into the SME space. That's a vertical for us. So who are your customer? Who are your target customers? Yes, it cannot be everyone. I agree. So that's become sort of the vertical. Oh, how do I explain this? It's where we spend our marketing dollar. Sure, it could be professional versus student. It's how you segment your customer. Let's put it this way. So for us, it doesn't mean we don't take business outside construction, media, and SMEs. It just means that if we were to do any marketing, if we were to consciously go out and get leads, those are the leads that we would go after. But you know, if we go to any networking event, we might pick up someone else. It doesn't mean that the selling stops. It means that there's less effort put in verticals. That's not what we're chasing after, if it makes any sense. And depending on what product you bring to the table, it's better suited for certain demographic than others. Like I think I'm gonna stop there, but otherwise it gets a lot more sophisticated. So I'm gonna keep the conversation there. For two-ended market where one end brings 0 revenue, how would you structure your sales plan? John, can you unmute and tell us about that? I don't get it.
Hi, yeah. So my question is, so where I am is I'm a SaaS provider and I have a sales a wedding platform where one side is catering towards couples who are planning their weddings, and on the other side is the professionals, and those are the ones who are actually going to be are the true customers. The value in the couples is that through network effects, that's what is they're the value. But I recognize that even though their sales, they don't really bring anything in terms of revenue, there's still a sales activity, if you will, that still needs to happen on there. How would you structure something like that in terms of this?
Yeah, so I remember you, John. I think you were in an earlier thing before with Vaughan as well. And in terms of your business model, I would look at your because you charge professionals, right? You charge your
Yeah, that's right.
wedding planners and okay. So I would look at one as your what you're calling zero revenue. I would actually call those partners and marketing activities. I would not allocate a revenue toward that until I can somehow make a business model out of it. So you really only charge you're only dealing with one type of end customer.
Yeah,
Does
that's
it make
right.
any sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So, I mean, if you're thinking about marketing, in order for you to upkeep the marketing, in order for your pipeline to be full, you need those partners. As a matter of fact, you might want to run some spiffs, or you might want to run some sort of, there might even be costs associated, not just is it zero revenue. There might be costs associated with keeping those partnerships, but those are necessary evils in a marketing sense.
Okay, that makes sense. So, but on the attracting that side of things from a partner perspective, that's still somewhat of a sales activity too, right? So,
Yeah.
and from that standpoint, would that be counted as, I guess, negative sale if they do turn out as costs?
I would, like I said, I would actually consider that a marketing spend. So
Okay.
I wouldn't put it as a revenue. I would actually put it as a cost center to begin with.
Okay, makes
I'm
sense.
gonna assume it's a cost center.
Yeah, it is.
So great question. So next, I'm going to challenge you guys some more. So for each of the verticals, I'm gonna ask you guys, what is the average deal size for that vertical? I'll give you a classic example. So we implement CRMs, and we implement CRMs for all sides of organizations. What I would charge a Rogers Media CRM implementation is very different than what I would charge, I don't know, a solopreneur, because number one, the setup's very different, the consideration's different, the people involved is different. The price point would be very different because the amount of work is very different. But at the same time, if you think about it, it's just quote unquote setting up a CRM. So if you look at it, the average deal size, depending on what vertical you are chasing after, will net different type of deals. If it's the same product, if it's a combination of different product you bring to the table, what do you believe would be the average deal size for that particular vertical? So a way to work backwards would be, if I'm chasing after this type of vertical, for example, like what product am I bringing to them? What is the average cost for those, or average price for those products for that sector? And then sum up all the product I would be pitching them. And then that becomes your average deal size for that vertical. Okay, last question on this worksheet, okay? Last question on this worksheet is the idea of breaking down your revenue into three streams. So now forget about the vertical for a second. I'm gonna throw that particular number out the door for 1 second. But 3 ways of generating business. Number 1 is net new business. You're prospecting. You've never worked with these people. And I put a caveat there, inactive for 12 months. And for some of you may be inactive for 24 months. The effort in getting these people back on your book is as if they were a complete stranger to you. That's what I define as new business, okay? Okay, I can explain working backwards in just a little bit. So number 2 is existing repeat business. So if you have a SaaS model, that's a perfect example of existing repeat business. You're selling the same thing to the same client month, and you charge them month over month. Okay. Teresa, I got you. Just give me 1 second. Okay? And the last piece is growth from existing. You know the client, you are not offering this particular service to them, but you want to start a conversation to sell them more. Sell them more than what you're selling them now. That's growth from existing. So now I want you to give me new percentages there. How much of your overall business in the next 12 months will come from new business? And I think a lot of you, because I know there's a lot of startup here, but how much of that is new business? How much of it is existing repeat business? And how much of it is growth from existing business? Average deal size is average revenue? No. So average deal size, depends on how you look at it. Average deal size is, let's say for me, for example, so for whatever reason, I have a construction client come knocking on my door. I haven't talked to this person yet. I haven't figured out what is their problem. Someone referred this client to us. I would size this client up. I would understand that they're in the construction field. I would, sort of categorize them and figure out based on their how big their team is and whatnot. I would be able to figure out what is their problem, and based on their problem, I would likely be able to figure out what product I'm going to try to sell this construction client. And that I might be completely off. When I get that meeting in front of the construction client, I might be totally out to lunch, but I have an idea of what I'm trying to sell to my construction client, just given the history and the data that we have on record. And with any and all these sales calculator things, exercise that we're doing today, we have there's a lot of hypothesis. We're not dealing with facts and data here. We're dealing with, based on your experience, what do you think would be the average deal size? It isn't like selling a tub of ice cream, right? We know selling a tub of ice cream is going to be $8 because that's the cost of ice cream. And then it's just a matter of mass selling that tub of ice cream, right? So just that particular deal. Cool. I'm gonna switch to the next page. Okay, everybody? Next page is around the actual idea of working backwards. Okay, I know the font is kind of small here. Can everyone still see? Okay, so just so you know what I end up doing here. So at the $4 million mark, I said that I want to do 30% of it new business. So it means that I took a subsection of this particular calculator, and I want to come up with an actual plan. So for new business, I wanted to hit my $1.2 million target. If my average deal size is $12,000, it means I have to close 100 deals that year. Okay? And if I know, if you remember the chalkboard example, if I know that I can get someone if someone's willing to negotiate and review my solution, my chances of closing them is 60%, then that means I have to bring 167 deals to the table where my client is in the solution, review, and negotiation stage. Okay. Then, if I know that from the moment I know someone needs my service to someone willing to listen to a solution, I get a 50% drop-off rate, then that means I need to have 333 people willing to go through a needs assessment phase with us. Then, if I know that there's a 40% drop-off rate, 60% advancement rate of the people that want between introduction to going through with a needs assessment, I need to meet 556 people. So any given year, in order for me to hit $1.2 million of new business at the average of $12,000 per piece of business, I need to meet 556 556 people, or get introduced to 556 people. That's what I mean. I think someone was asking about MC, asking about working backwards. That's what I mean. You've got to understand each of these number, and the key figure in this particular worksheet that you want to understand, we inherit the 12,000, we inherit the 1.2 million. The only new piece of information here on this worksheet that you haven't worked out in the worksheet before is what we call the advancement ratio from stage to stage. So how many of you guys use a CRM? Okay, if you don't use a CRM, then we've got to talk after. It's very important to have a CRM because that's where you keep your data. It's like, Omar always uses this example. It's like wanting to lose weight and never stepping on a scale on a day-to-day basis. You won't lose weight because you're not cognizant of how much what you're gaining or losing, or what's working in your diet versus what's not working in your diet. You gotta use a CRM to hold yourself accountable there. Aside from many wonderful things that comes along with having a CRM. So, and one of the configuration, one of the setting in a CRM is what they call an advancement ratio from stage to stage. Obviously, you have the stage set up, but the understanding where your client drop-off rate is important. $12,000 for this example, MC, $12,000 is your average deal size. How much you're closing in one deal. Okay, and it's different for everybody. Right, this is just pulling out, different numbers that's relatively simple to understand and easy to round up and down for you guys to see what, some of the number look like. But it is a working backward exercise for you to understand one deal, yes, one deal. For you to understand the amount of activity involved in order for you to hit the goal that you need. So number one, define the goal. Number two, understand your numbers. And number three, being able to work backwards so that you understand the amount of activity involved in being able to hit your numbers.
Agnes?
Yes?
Yeah, hi, this is MC. So I just have a quick question. So in this working backwards would be first you figure out the solution and negotiation stage, and then you work backwards to the introduction and the needs assessment. That's what you mean?
Yep, in this particular example, yes. But everyone's sales pipeline, I want to also caution you, is very different. So these are very generic stages that I put here just for today's demonstration purposes, but you should track what your stages and your customer, the whole slew of the customer-centric stages are, and then understand your customer psyche in terms of their buying behavior and understanding how much fall through the cracks from stage to stage, because there's nobody that close 100%. It's impossible. I always say, if you are in the business of doing especially B2B business, if you're closing at about 33%, you're doing okay. Because the chances are, if you're selling to an enterprise, a part of their process, the procurement process, is to shortlist down to 3 vendors. And if you're able to win 1 in every 3, when there is generally 3 shortlisted, your batting average is okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Ed, I'm sorry. I think it is the fact that I'm just trying to squeeze way too much information onto the slide. Sorry about that, Ed. So far, you guys understand what I'm trying to say here today? Cool. So actually, let's go back to here. Any other question from a sales calculator and working backwards in terms of activity and sales planning, what I'm trying to accomplish here? I know Dex really wants pizza, so I'm going to try to wrap it up now, and I'm going to ask you guys, every time we do a webinar, the key for us is, we want you guys to take something and do something with the information that, we just spend 75 minutes together. I want you to take away something that is actionable. It isn't about just Agnes talking for 75 minutes. So if you can unmute yourself, tell me, what is your biggest takeaway today, and what can you actually do, tomorrow, even tonight, set in motion? What are some stuff that you can share with us?
Hi, Agnes. For me, it's about making that customer avatar, right?
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable, and I really also enjoyed the Ansoff matrix. I hadn't considered the market in that way, and I'm going to be utilizing that for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so very much. That's good.
And do you have a LinkedIn account that we can connect with you on?
Yes. So I will give you all that information at the end.
Okay, thanks. Great.
Awesome. Anyone else? Figure out the vertical market and the pipeline, yeah, for each vertical. That makes a lot of sense. Because you have to work, guys, you have to work out your numbers, right? Edward's right, you have to know your numbers inside out. If you don't, what are you chasing after? That's a great one, Meg. You need to understand your calculation and then narrow down the target market. Your time, it's not just money too, right? Even if you have all the money in the world to advertise, if you only have so much time, and that's the one that I worry about. Why be on the phone with someone that you would never close, right? Why sell to someone you never close when you can sell with someone that you can actually close? You only have 24 hours in a day, so pick your target market wisely. It'll make all the difference in the world in your conversion ratio.
Right, Agnes, I'm in the coaching business, dealing with students and professionals. So I have a hard time getting students to pay. Because,
yes.
Yeah, because I know the need is there. They need the instruction, but I have hard time getting students to pay. So that is my basic problem. Like, I understand the sales funnel and the needs assessment and everything, but it's like, how do you get them to pay?
Good question. Then I think, MC, that's one of the things that you have to do some soul search and see if they're still your target market. Like, I'll give you a classic example of how we approach it and see if this helps you. So traditionally, we have always serviced either the enterprises or the small mid-sized business, but bigger clients, because you're right, they have money to pay. But we have always believed as a firm that if we can help small mid-sized business not get into some poor habits, then we want to also pay it forward and make sure that we coaches and we do that as well for the smaller guys that we have never been able to pay in the first place. So
see, for me, it is like, you can't put a price to education. So for me, it's like, oh, so I'm like giving free sessions to people. And for how long am I going to do that? Is this a hobby?
Yes. And that's something you have to decide. Like, we're very structured that way. We know when we chase after certain pieces of business that, when we run our webinar, for example, if it's a piece of business we're chasing after, the vertical that we put our webinar on, that, we know we're going to close some sale, there's some hard call to action at the end of the webinar. With webinars that we want to just get general public information, like information out to the general public, you can see that our call to action is a lot softer in terms of tone, because we really just want to educate and help people out. The key there, MC, I think from just personal experience too, is for you to find and still deliver on that value, but in a way that is more cost efficient for you. So it's not causing so much time.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking of venturing into like e-courses or something where I don't have to spend so much time one-on-one, online. I want to do everything online now. I'm liking this actually, virtually, because then I can reach more people in less time.
Yes, because I can tell you for us, we never could have afford to service the small guys before. So one of the things we ended up doing was now we packaged 5 to 6 small guys together into one room to do a session with them. So number one, they're together. We never put conflicting if there's a conflict of interest and people in the same category together, but we put 5 to 6 of them together in one room. They learn from their peers that's pretty much in the same phase in terms of where they are in the startup. And then we make it cost effective for us to service this sector, because we know that sector needs help, but we just need to figure out a way how we can do it so that it's cost effective for us and also, achieve the greater good here, right? So that's how we were able to get around that.
Okay, thank you. I just had a request. I had to run out for some time. So I missed a little bit. No, I missed a little bit in between. So will you be sending the recording and the slides and everything?
I think YSpace will send out the recording, so you can have that. The slides we don't give out normally for free seminars, so you will have to catch it with the recording. What I was telling people in the beginning, I'll try to do a 5-minute version of this and I'll post it. So if you leave your email address, when I have the Reader's Digest version, I'll send it out as well, so you're not sitting through 75 minutes of it. And if you guys want to find me on LinkedIn, I think I'm one of the only Agnes Lans in the world. AGN, yes, LAN. So you guys can add me on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my name just in case on the chat, so you guys have my name there. But yes, if you guys put your email on the chat, then castle rule and all, it sort of becomes easier for me to add you guys onto our mailing list. We have, just so I can move on to the next slide too. We do sessions every Thursday morning at 10:30 now while we're in lockdown. I think that would stop though. I don't think we'll be doing it forever. Next week, we're talking about revenue framework. And our revenue model. We put a few models together and we sort of create our own model. So that's a good session if you guys want to talk about changing your revenue model and how to go about changing your revenue model. That might be something that will be of interest to you guys. But otherwise, in the mailing list, I will be sending these webinar notice out, and then maybe you can catch a topic that makes more sense for you guys. Okay, I know some of you guys need to go, but for those people that still want to hang out, I'll be here for anybody that have any questions. I'm sticking around for a little while more. Otherwise, thank you for joining us today.